Hi everyone, my name's Charlie and I've helped over 150 people win their PIP claims. I also received PIP myself. Today, I'm going to take you through the whole PIP process so you understand exactly what happens, how and when, with a couple of tips thrown in as well. So by the end of this video, you will be so much clearer on what the PIP process is. You need to understand this process and how long it takes, very much so for your mental health and in order to win. Let's crack on. So simply, what is PIP? So what is PIP for? So I think the government says it brilliantly. It's literally to help with extra living costs when you suffer from chronic illness and have difficulty completing daily tasks because of your condition. Now, this bit here where it says you can get PIP even if you're working, have savings, or are getting most other benefits. PIP is what is called not means tested, which you could literally be a multimillionaire and you'd be entitled to claim this, provided you meet the criteria about your condition and it impacting your life. Doesn't matter if you're claiming other benefits, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you drive, doesn't matter if your partner earns a lot of money, you earn a lot of money, if you own property, it doesn't matter. It's not means tested. So how does PIP work? So it's into two sections, daily living, of which there are 10 what they call descriptors, 10 areas that they look into, and mobility, which is split into two sections. And for example, some people might receive the mobility part, but they might not get the daily living part. They're not, it doesn't matter. It's just based on your life. So daily living is split into these sections. I have many videos that you need to watch to understand these and the points. I'll show you the points now. So for example, preparing food, this is how the points is broken down. If you use an aid, 2 points. If you can't cook a simple meal, but you could heat up a meal, 2 points. If you need prompting, supervision or assistance, 4 points. So prompting, 2 points. Supervision and assistance, 4 points. Cannot prepare food. Cannot prepare food is basically for people that have had a serious stroke, severe cerebral palsy, or for example, people with autism where they're unable to understand danger or put together a number of tasks with timings. Many people think they are 8 points. We are not. I did when I first claimed PIP. I thought I was 8 points. We're not. So it's important you understand that. And I think it's frustrating for them when so many people think that they're 8 points and we're not. Now, when you look at the points, so say for example, you think, okay, right, Charlie, I have to sit on a seat due to fatigue. So that's using an aid, and I can only use a microwave, so that's 2 points, and I have to get nagged to do it. So is that 6 points? No, it is not 6 points. They only allocate the highest point in that descriptor. So this is called, preparing food is called a descriptor. So say for example, if that was your scenario, you sit on a seat, you use a microwave, but you need to get nagged to do it, you would receive a total of 2 points. But say for example, you sat on a seat, you needed prompting, nagging to do it, but someone had to be with you to help you because you can't chop food, things like that. So they assisted you, you would then receive 4 points. So it's the highest point is what is allocated to you. So mobility is split into two sections. This doesn't really explain it greatly. It's planning and following a journey. So that means, are you able to go somewhere familiar on your own, unfamiliar on your own, and about physically moving around. Again, I have lots of guides on this, so have a look at the other videos. DWP assess you on if you can do it safely, consistently, and reliably. So I say PIP scars us. Going through the PIP process isn't pleasant. Is quite a degrading process. You will ask questions that you've probably not even discussed with your partner or your loved ones. They need to work out whether you're impacted over 50% of the time. So what I work with my clients and I coach my clients on is saying something like, on average, I can prepare a meal twice a week. That explains so much more. And if you're not sure what that is, pay attention to your life because you'll need to know things like that to be able to win your PIP claim or to figure out if you're entitled to it. With them assessing you, I advise all my clients to request a telephone assessment because when you go in for the assessment, they will look, there is so much more underlying things that they will look at that you won't even be aware of that they will use against you. And they don't take into account that when you're being assessed, you're nervous, we dress differently and we try and put effort in because of our culture. So request a phone assessment. You can do that again. Watch the guides that I've got. Help with PIP. Citizens advice. I've experienced issues where clients have been told by individuals that citizens advice only tell DWP about bad days. Do not do this. It's a form of lying. You need to be honest, which is why I say do the on average. Because if you only tell them about your bad days, for example, where you're bedridden, but then you're seen going out because you're not bedridden all the time, just on your bad days, you look fraudulent. So don't follow that advice. And it's not on Citizens Advice website, but individuals and I say individuals because it's more than one person, at Citizens Advice are giving bad, advice. Help with PIP. There is a system where PIP can help you fill out the form. Don't do it. I've seen the way they write it. And once you've had that conversation with them, you can't undo what they've written. So I've had a client before where I thought it was a family member. I was like, this person doesn't care about you. And then they told me it was PIP. So don't use them either because they don't care and it will hinder your claim. If you live in Scotland, it's called ADP. You get a booklet. In England, we get a 44-page document. In Scotland, you get booklet, I think like 130 pages-ish. The booklet's much better. I've got a video coming soon about this, where I've basically taken the best from both, and it's a step-by-step guide. You'll love it. It's really helpful. DLA. So when you're 16, you move from DLA to PIP. If you're a parent watching this video, it's awful because basically they are deeming that now your child is fine. And I do find that a lot of the letters that you get for your children when they're under 16, the specialists write them with hope, for example, with training, blah, blah, should be able to prepare meals on their own. DWP will read that and say, this specialist said that they can cook on their own. So you've got to be really careful about evidence you submit. Again, I've got guides on this. So are you eligible? You need to be a UK citizen and over the age of 16 and have a condition that's lasted more than 3 months and is going to last more than 9 months. So they've put here, you expect the difficulties to last at least 12 months from when they started. You'll see had it for 3 months, going to last longer than 9 months. That comes up quite often. And it's that you score points. You need to understand how the points work if you want to win, okay? Because when they assess you, so many people talk about stuff that is not relevant, which means the assessor can't figure out whether you're entitled to it or not. You must understand whether you're eligible by looking at the points yourself. So again, this is how much you could be awarded. So when they say the lower weekly rate, that is what they call standard. Higher weekly rate is enhanced. Basically gets paid into your bank every 4 weeks. Yeah, if there's a bank holiday, it's usually before. And then once you receive PIP, it does open doors. So it's so much easier to get your blue badge, which changes our lives. Vehicle tax discount or exemption. So if you receive the mobility section, you're exempt from vehicle tax. I've got a little video on that as well. The mobility scheme. So if you receive enhanced in the mobility section, you could be entitled to a vehicle, disabled rail card, and then different areas like London has different things as well that if you receive PIP, you can be entitled to. It changes. This can change your life. It can absolutely change your life for the better. It's worth going through the hell for this. I don't know anything about other benefits, so you'd need to watch someone else's video for that. So I'm not even going to go into those. It doesn't say it, but universal credit work capability, that is really similar to PIP, and ESA is like a mild version of PIP. So those, you can use these videos, you can use my guides to help you fill out those forms as well. I know that I'm pretty much going through the government site, but I don't know if you're like me, I hate having to go through sites and try and figure things out myself. I want someone to explain it to me, so I hope this helps. So how to claim. So what I did was I just called them. I think just ring them up. So you've got the phone numbers here. And then you need this information, your contact details, date of birth, national insurance number, bank account details. So some people get really funny. Why do they need my bank details? Why should I give them my bank details? Well, first of all, I firmly believe if you're honest, you've got nothing to hide. So give them your bank details. The reason they need it is to be able to pay you if you're awarded PIP. Your doctor's name, address and telephone number. If you're thinking, but Charlie, I see a different doctor all the time, just pick a doctor's name. It doesn't matter. All they need is to be able to write to someone at your surgery to check that you're diagnosed. That's it. So just pick a doctor. I tend to just Google it and you'll see a doctor's name linked to it, so I just pick that doctor. Dates and address for any time you spent in a care home or hospital. That's generally in the past 12 months. And if you're going abroad for more than 4 weeks at a time, they will question that, because obviously to go abroad is a vast amount of energy and does raise concerns in a lot of the descriptors of the areas that we get assessed in. If you're going for more than 4 weeks, it needs to be for medical reasons, which you will need to provide evidence of, or they'll stop your PIP. So again, we've got the phone numbers. Start the claim. So when you contact them, they will send you out a claim form, which is 44 pages. So I'll put a link to a video above of how to complete the claim form. But remember, the forms could be perfect. Like if I work with people, their forms are like from a DWP PIP purpose, brilliant. The most important thing is the assessment. The assessment is everything. If you cannot explain clearly and in a manner that helps them assess you, you're not going to win. The assessment is everything. So don't spend too long worrying about the form, even though it's a beast. Never ever use free post. Don't trust them. Always do it signed for, because they lose a lot of things. You do not need to use a postcode or a stamp. Do not trust them. Send it signed for. So you'll get the form, or if you're in Scotland, you get the booklet. You have a month to return it. Now you can ask for an extension. Most people ask for extensions. You just need to contact that number and explain. You can just simply say that I've not been well. I haven't been well enough to do it, for whatever your condition is. They get so many people asking for extensions. It's normal. So after you've applied, so after you've submitted your form, you get invited to an assessment. And again, I recommend you ask for a phone assessment. If you feel more comfortable with a specific gender, like if you feel more comfortable talking to a female, request that. You can ask for that. And they won't blink about it. It's not going to offend anyone. You need to be as comfortable as possible to explain what your life is like. Where it says here, it usually takes an hour. I disagree. On average, my clients, it takes 2 to 2.5 hours. If your assessment is taking less than an hour, something's gone wrong. Something's gone wrong and they 0-pointed you. So again, you need to watch the guys. I'm so sorry, but you need to study. Okay, I'm sorry I'm blocking the blue square, but we'll come to that. Right, so this is my little diagram of what happens. Okay, so you apply for PIP, you do the claim form. That is the 44-page form or the 130-something page booklet if you're in Scotland. You do the claim form, you submit it. It can be a couple of months before you get an assessment. When they give you the assessment, you'll get 1 to 2 weeks notice, sometimes only a week's notice for the assessment. And you can request, like, if you want the earlier appointment, because, for example, my body is better at early and terrible later in the day. I would ask for the early appointment, because if your appointment is after 11 o'clock, they can run 10 minutes to 2 to 3 hours late. If you have the late afternoon appointment, it can get rolled to another day. And I cannot tell you how stressed and anxious you will feel on the day of the appointment. So try and get the earlier appointment so at least you know what time it's going to be. So say, for example, you win, okay? Now, most of the time, they will not give you the points you're entitled to because the government's skint. But say, for example, you do win, then you will get awarded PIP for 3, 5 or 10 years. So say, for example, you get 3 years. That means at the 2-year mark, they send you a review form. So you go back to the beginning, you do another form, another assessment, and get another outcome. But when you're doing reviews, it's less intense than the initial assessment. And don't think because you've got a condition for life that you'll get 10 years. It's quite rare for them to give out the 10 years. It's normally 3 years, okay? Hopefully the new government will change that because it's a waste of like admin resource and stress for us because there's so many people with degenerative conditions where we're not going to get better, okay? So let's say you do the assessment and you don't get PIP, so you lose. So you can do what's called a mandatory reconsideration. So we would say an appeal, but in DWP, an appeal is called a tribunal. So a mandatory reconsideration is where you don't agree with their outcome. So you start your claim, you do the form, you will then wait a couple of months, sometimes longer, to do the assessment. The assessment, they will give you 1 week's minimum notice, normally 2 weeks notice. The assessment will last, they say an hour, but if you have the right information and are communicating clearly, probably it's going to last about 2.5 hours. When the assessment is over, they will say to you it will be 6 to 8 weeks before you get an outcome. It can sometimes be longer. Sometimes people get the outcome because they see money in their bank account. The money will arrive before the letter does. Okay? So if you win, you'll be allocated PIP for a certain amount of time, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Do not think because you've got a degenerative condition or a condition for life that you will get a 10-year award. It doesn't work like that. It's normally 3 or 5 years. Now, say for example, you do the assessment, but you do not get awarded PIP, or you don't get the level of award that you know you're entitled to because you've studied and you know what your entitlement is. Because what does happen quite often is that they will give you standard or just below standard or just below enhanced because they're skint. It's a tactic. They very, very rarely will give the right award because they're hoping that you do not do a mandatory reconsideration, which is like an appeal. So you do the mandatory reconsideration. So you've got 30 days. They say that you've got 30 days from the date that you get your outcome, but sometimes the letter will be dated, but you don't receive it until 3 weeks later, which only gives you 7 days to appeal. But don't worry, because if you miss the 30-day deadline to do a mandatory reconsideration, you can just explain why. You could just explain, I didn't receive my letter until this date, or I declined and I wasn't able to focus. I was bedridden. Well, you can just be honest. So you do mandatory reconsideration. So that's basically a document and evidence. Again, I've got guides on this. You submit it. If you win, you get awarded PIP for a certain amount of time. If you lose, let me just move my face. If you lose, you can go to tribunal. Tribunal, I think it's 70% of people win at tribunal. Again, you've got to remember the government skin. So a lot of these outcomes, it's not personal. They just don't have the funding. Tribunals are horrendous. I don't recommend it. But if you are entitled to it, you have been through the points, you know what your life is, you've studied my videos, you've studied the guides, I do recommend you submit to tribunal. So you can either get an offer or attend tribunal. If you win, again, you'll get an award and you go back to the beginning of the process when it's time for a review. If you lose, that is the end of it. You can go to upper tier tribunal, but that's if they broke the law at the tribunal, which odds are they're not going to. Now, if you lose the tribunal, you could start the process at the beginning, but there has to be a reason why you've started the process, because they will look at everything. So it's either you've declined or a new diagnosis. Okay, it's best just get it right at the beginning. That's why you're watching this video. Just get it right at the beginning. It's so much easier. So you've won your award and it's review time. So basically you get another form. I think it's about 26 pages. I've got guides on this. You fill it in and you send it, and yeah, it's the same process but milder. You can have a reduction in your award. So at your review, they do use reviews to try and get rid of people as well. Especially if you're coming into pension age. I've definitely seen a pattern where people that come into pension age, suddenly they'll lose their award. That is a strategy, because if you are receiving PIP, when you hit pension age, you basically get it indefinitely. So it's a lot of money. So they're trying to get rid of people coming up to that age. So those of you that come into retirement age, just be careful. Don't give up. And then if you don't agree with your review, you can again do a mandatory reconsideration. This is really important. Change of circumstance, really important. I need you to listen to me and really understand. If you log a change of circumstance, so if you make the mistake of going, the doctor changed my medication, I must tell PIP. If you log a change of circumstance, you start the process again. It triggers a review. They will send you a review form. You will have to fill out the form. You will have another assessment. You could lose your award. Okay, so it's your choice on what you update them on, and we're going to go through what they request you to inform them about. I will give you my opinion. You need to do what you want to do. It's your life, it's your claim. Understand, it will trigger a review. So this first one is what they use if they investigate anyone. So you need more or less help. So that means your score is different. Now, if you're watching my videos and you're educated about PIP, I would say if you know you're better, yes, do a change of circumstance. If you've declined and you believe you're entitled to a higher level of PIP award, just prepare yourself that you're about to launch the process. A health professional tells you that a condition will last for longer or shorter the time than you reported before. To be honest, and I've helped a lot of people, right? Never have I had someone do that. You're diagnosed with depression. No one puts a timeline on it. So I wouldn't worry about that. If you become terminally ill, they are brilliant. They will absolutely speed up the process and make sure you get the right entitlement. Obviously, if you go into a hospice or nursing or care home, residential school, foster care, in prison, if you go abroad for more than 4 weeks, a lot of people aren't clear on that, is if you go abroad for more than 4 weeks, you need to tell them. Immigration status, pensions or benefits, pensions or benefits. That's it. Oh, and obviously if your bank changes because they need to pay you, right? And then that's how to do it. Nowhere here does it say my dosage of medication has changed. I've got a new diagnosis. I thought I had fibro, now I've got fibro, I better tell them. No, because in this example, think about it. So I recently had a client that wanted to contact them because they'd got a new diagnosis. And I was like, right, they already had clear diagnosis in other conditions. Everything they told PIP was true. It was based on their life. Nothing had changed. Just because they'd got a new diagnosis, it didn't change any of the information that was given to PIP about their daily life, about their mobility. Everything was the same. Just because for those of you that find out you've got ADHD, you're still who you are. You're still you. You just now have a diagnosis so you can understand more about yourself. So why would you relaunch another review, another assessment, and have to go through the hell of being scarred by DWP for nothing, when nothing's changed? So I firmly believe, and I stand by, if something changes, so if you've improved and you score less points, yes, do a change of circumstance. Always be honest. If you've declined and you know know that you should be receiving a higher level of the award, yes, inform them, but brace yourself and make sure you are ready to go through the forms and the assessment again. If you're not ready, just leave it as is. It's your choice. Okay, the government aren't going to complain that you didn't tell them you were much worse, so they needed to pay you more. They're not going to complain about that, are they? Because they're skin. How to report a change, and if you've been paid too much. And then I think the final bit is, this bit is if you're claiming it for end of life. So that's interesting. I didn't know that. Under state pension age. I've never actually done this, so I would, you just need to ring them up and log it. Okay, but I know they are very, very quick at this. If you've got evidence that you're terminally ill, they are very, very quick at switching this on. So that's basically all of the information from the government site. Let's go through some stuff that they didn't put on the website, okay, that I think is really important. There is this thing where you can have an appointee, what's called an appointee. And there's loads of confusion about this, and I'm going to be honest with you, I have not figured it out. I still haven't got a fucking clue how this works. And I'm not interested in what they've put on the government site. And one of the reasons why I'm not clear on it is because everyone I talk to, it seems to be different. So say, for example, a parent has a child that is autistic, that is nonverbal. So that parent logs themselves as the appointee, which means they can speak for their child. But I know parents that have had that exact situation, and the DWP have demanded to speak to the nonverbal child that is now like 17 or however old. That nonverbal child can't speak because they are nonverbal, and only then was the parent allowed to speak for the child. I've also experienced it where people have logged themselves as the appointee, they've gone through the process and registered themselves as the appointee, and then in the assessment or tribunal, whatever level it is, they've been told they are not permitted to speak for the person. It just doesn't make sense. This is what I do know. They really want you to be able to speak for yourself, okay? Now, I've been in assessments with people, I've been to tribunals, I've coached people that have done assessments or tribunals or whatever level it is without me, but have had someone with them. If you handle it right, they will allow you to answer some questions. So, for example, I was on an assessment with someone recently, and the assessor was asking permission from that person for me to speak on their behalf. And I'm experienced, so I was very, very careful. I didn't get involved unless absolutely critical. And then when I did speak, it was very short, it was blunt, and it was really good. So then the assessor knew that if they asked me, they could get the question answered in less than a minute versus 15 to 20 minutes of speaking to the individual. You have to handle it right. So, and I'm so sorry that this appointee isn't clear. I've even had it where people have, so someone's gone, oh, I'm the appointee. And then they've gone, are you the legal, for example, if someone's got dementia, so you become their, what's the word? I don't know the posh word for it, but you can do all the stuff. You can control the money, you can do all this stuff. So I've had it before where a judge has gone, well, have you been to a solicitor about this? And I've gone, no. And they've gone, well, you're not the appointee then. So I'm so sorry that this is, but actually I'm not sorry, because what I want you to understand, I don't want you to think, well, I'm the appointee, so I can speak for them. Don't think that, because it might not work. Okay, don't think it. Just prepare yourself that they might be like, no, that individual's got to speak for themselves. Prepare yourself for that and do a bit of research on it. And if you are adamant that you are right and you need to speak on behalf of that person, stand your ground. But you might find they'll be like, well, we're going to end the assessment because we need to speak to the individual. I have had it where I have quite a few mums. I have had it where what we do is where possible, we'll prepare the child that is now an adult, but from a DWP point of view, but we will stick with, I need to speak for them. And we'll be like, do you want to get permission for me to speak for this person? And they'll say yes. Okay. But most of the time, if you can do your name, explain your conditions, if you can chat, they're going to want to talk to you. So just, be aware, take copies of everything you send them. So this goes wrong for people. Okay. When you send the form, take copies of it, because when it comes to review time, they will look for discrepancies. They will look for anything to get out of giving you this funding. I'm sorry, it sucks, but it's true. If you send evidence, take a copy of it. I have had complications in the past where I've gone, what have you submitted? Now, I've got a brilliant video on evidence. I'll put the link above. Be careful on your evidence, particularly if you are someone that is moving from DLA to PIP. I'm doing a big sigh because the doctors and the specialists don't understand PIP. So I recently got my own evidence, which I'm going to do another video on. And the doctor wrote down, it was wonderful to see Charlotte today. She was in really good spirits or something and doing really well on treatment. What? Now, compared to when I was bedridden and literally actually unable to do 9 steps to the toilet, oh, I'm doing so much better. That's what she means. That is not how DWP will read it. They will read it, my treatment is working, so I'm fine. I am not fine. I wish I was fine. Actually, do you know what? Now I don't wish I was fine, because if I was fine, I wouldn't have met all of you, and I wouldn't be doing work that makes me so happy. I didn't think I'd say that. I didn't think I'd ever say that in the first 17 years of being chronically ill. But I accept my situation, and I've turned it into a positive, so we're all good. You've got to be careful of the evidence you submit. You've got to be careful. And when you watch the evidence video that I've done, it's going to break your heart a little bit, because I've had people with like, codename Duracell, she brought a bin, like it's so big, and I was like, no, and it was like, it's 3/4 full, no. So when I saw her about evidence, she was like, so it's not any good? No. Codename Posh Nails. Oh god, it breaks my heart when I do this with clients, when they sit there with all this amazing evidence, and I go, does it say she said? Yeah, it's not relevant. Watch the video. Watch the other video. I won't go into it. Watch the video, but just brace yourself, because you're going to be shocked at what is good and what is shit evidence. Okay. Record the assessment. Don't say you're filming it, say you're recording it. Now you can ring up and ask them to record it. They like you to do that in advance, but to be honest, I'm not fussed about it. The assessors are lovely. It's my most disliked video. The assessors are lovely. When you say to them, I'm just letting you know I'm recording this, basically most of the time they'll go, okay. Sometimes they'll read you a script that basically says you can't use it for social media. Sometimes they'll have to stop the call and restart the call, and they'll record it themselves, but they're fine about it. That happened a couple of weeks ago. She was absolutely fine. I actually met someone when I was getting bloods done, and he said 3 times they refused to do the assessment with him, but he said, I am filming you. No, you record it, audio only, okay? And your reason is, I suffer from anxiety, and I want to listen to it, or I've got brain fog, I won't remember what I've said. Whatever your reason is, you're entitled, you're allowed to record it. This is not a big deal, but I do find people are treated more fairly if they inform them at the beginning they're recording it. I've even had it where clients have said to them, I'm going to record it for whatever reason, and they've gone, okay, and then they've gone, I don't know how to work it, I can't record it. And then they've bonded with the assessor, and it's still gone well. It's still gone well, but record it. That is my advice. This is another important one. When you log your claim, let's get the picture up. Let's get this little diagram up I did. The date you log your claim, even if you go all the way through all of this to tribunal, it gets backdated to the date you logged the claim. Don't give up. Think of it like a savings account. Now, I had someone email recently saying that they didn't backdate it to the correct date. So I was like, that's an admin error. And he said, no, they've chosen not to. So I've said to him, I think you should challenge it. All my clients, and myself included, have had it backdated correctly. I've never experienced a client of mine have issues with it being backdated. I'm going to tell you this. You're going to ignore me. I promise, of all the things that I've talked about today, this will be the one where you're going to ignore me. When you get the report, this is the bit you're interested in. You want to know the points, okay? Points. Do not, I repeat, do not focus on what they write about you. It's never right, or very rarely. Sorry, it's not true. It is very rarely correct. Don't bother reading it. Don't get caught up in it. If you struggle with anxiety, depression, for fuck's sake, do not read it. It will stress you out. You will be like, I didn't say that. That's not right. The amount of times people said to me, but Charlie, it said I was fine, but I cried for an hour. But Charlie, it said I was fine and I couldn't breathe. I had to stop for a break. Charlie, they said I was fine. I had to go to the toilet because I had diarrhea 3 times in the meeting. Don't read it. Look at the points. So all you need is the points. You're going to read it. Everyone reads it. Seriously, don't bother reading it. And if you do read it and you go to mandatory reconsideration, do not waste time saying they said this wasn't right. They said this, it wasn't right. It's not going to get you points. Stick to the points. Points. I think I say this a lot. I read it. You'll still read it. The assessors, in my experience, are lovely. And I get so many people going, they were lovely. Yeah. The assessor is not the person that allocates the points. They do the assessment, they write the report, and it goes to the caseworker. The caseworker will look at the claim form, the assessment, any evidence, and if they contact your doctor's diagnosis, then they will decide what your points are. It's not the individual that did the meeting. So I've only met one knobhead, and, they clearly weren't suitable for it. That's it. So don't worry too much. Now, I do think, and again, I'm sorry, but I'm not, because you're watching this, right? People that are watching my content, you're more prepared. I've been contacted by people that work for DWP. I know that there are assessors that work for them that are heartbroken when they do assessments, and they know that people are entitled to it they know they won't get it, because when they're asking the questions, and no matter how many times they ask the questions, they're not answering it in the way that they need it. I know that. Obviously, there are people there that don't care, but there are many people that work there that do care. There are lots of qualified nurses that work there. So I do find that people that are watching my guides, that are my clients, I think it's a relief for the assessors, because we're cutting the crap, we're able to answer the questions, it's to the point, and they can figure out what your life is. And a lot of people get frustrated because when they do the assessment, they have to go through the system, okay? So they will ask some questions 10 to 20 times in different ways throughout the assessment. It's not that they don't believe you, it's that if they've logged something in washing and bathing, like I have issues standing, when it comes to moving around, that's like 11 questions, 11 descriptors later. So they still have to log it, because if they don't, it won't be relevant. It's not personal, it's not that you haven't answered it right. That's what they have to do. So don't be offended. And if you're being honest, there's no problem, is there? We've got nothing to hide. Finally, all you have to do is be honest. That's all you have to do. When I work with people, all we do is be honest. We communicate what their life is truly like, on average. Watch the other guides, don't give up. If you're entitled to this, keep fighting.